let's take a look at our top selections. Dan Illman, Mike Buer, race number 5 at Aqueduct on Saturday, kicks off the 20-cent Empire 6 and is also one of 3 stakes races on the card. Let's throw up the field for the $100,000 Gio Ponti Stakes. 3-year-olds going a mile and a 16th on the inner. Don't miss the Black Friday sales at DRF.com. Beginning Thanksgiving Day, you can save on your favorite DRF products. Visit shop.drf.com to access. Mike, is just a wide open race. I think it's really going to come down to trip, isn't it? I mean, you could make a case for 6 or 7 of these horses.
It really is sort of a wide open kind of race. It's very interesting, Dan. I personally had a little bit of trouble landing on anybody with a lot of confidence in here. It'll also, not only will trips be very important, but it'll be interesting to see how they bet the race, Dan, because I have no idea who's going to be the favorite.
And it's going to be interesting to see who takes up the early running. I agree with Timeform US as we throw up the pace projector. This is a blue bar scenario. Favoring horses on or near the early lead. There's not a lot of pace signed on in here. Maybe the 3 Sail at Sunrise, who just won an off the turf race. Maybe he'll be on the lead at a big price. Vancity has shown speed. Now, maybe not recently. I think he's got to go.
I think it would be his best chance. We'll see what they decide to do. I didn't feel like he ran that poorly from off the pace in that race at Pimlico 2 starts back. But I do think he's better if he can get up close. And I think you're right. They should probably try to get him forward early on in this race.
Now, a horse that's going to have to overcome the perceived lack of pace and is going to have to work out a trip somehow from the inside post is the late-running Doc Boy, who's just not good out of the gate now. This horse won his seasonal debut at Tampa Bay Downs, ran into a really razor-sharp horse in Gufo, who's come back to win 2 of his next 3, including the Grade 1 Belmont Derby, one of the better 3-year-old turf horses in the country, and he's disappeared. So we haven't seen this horse since May, and he might be up against it from a pace standpoint. I'm really curious to see what we get, because I think this horse has some ability.
I do, too. I like some of his races, and I do think he has some upside. Boy, that layoff came at a pretty bad time, though, for a 3-year-old turf horse. You don't want to be missing the entire summer, that's for sure. And we'll see if he's ready to take a step forward off the long break.
The Journey to Freedom you got to worry about simply because Michael Maker claimed the horse for 80. We've seen Maker-claimed horses turn into graded stakes winners. Now, it hasn't happened yet for a Journey to Freedom. It was run twice. It was run okay both times with career best 89 Beyer speed figures. Another horse that needs some pace help.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of trip he can get in this race. You take the Maker horses seriously, obviously, although he did, claim this horse off of Peter Miller. So we'll see what happens, Dan. I don't know. The Bryant Station, I thought, was a pretty tough race to get a handle on. There was a ton going on in that race. I personally didn't think this horse had that tough of a trip. I just felt like he wasn't good enough.
Just had a tough post that maybe compromised him getting in more position maybe in the early portion than he could have gotten. Like you, though, I really didn't see much excuse. He ran okay. Sail at Sunrise is the number 3. He could be part of the pace. That could make him interesting. But also, his last win came on dirt at Parks over sloppy going in an off-the-turf race. These are much tougher horses. 2 back, he was in a key race at Delaware, but it wasn't the strongest event.
He just has a lot of improving to do. His connections are obviously shipping in here, taking a shot, and I guess they'll try to put him on the lead.
Basquiat, the number 4, goes out for Chad Brown. This horse also exits a key race. The horse Ever Dangerous that wins this race, so we're going to watch it right now, came back to pull off a shocker like 75-1 in the Bryant Station with a 91 Beyer. I thought this horse ran okay. Kind of hung out outside in a race without much pace. He's trying hard. He's going to run second here. I think he's kind of logical because he has that tactical speed.
Yeah, I agree that he has tactical speed. It'll be interesting to see how they ride him, Dan, because the only excuses I want to give him for his 2 turf starts so far is that in both of those races, Rosario the first time at Saratoga and Ortiz last time, they took very, very strong holds of this horse early on in the race, almost like they wanted to take him back off the pace. Otherwise, I felt like his trips were fine. I felt like he had a chance to win both of those races and didn't quite get it done. He's a contender in here. I just don't want a short price on this horse. I feel like he's going to get bet, and I don't want a short price on this horse.
Let's talk a little bit about the 5 Fighting CB, Mike. And I wonder if maybe Dylan Davis gets a little cute out of the gate because this horse has shown speed in paceless races in the past. Note the With Anticipation 2 starts back, where he just received a brilliant ride on the lead under Brian Hernandez Jr. Let's talk about his 2 trips at Keeneland, Mike. His 2 starts off a long layoff. I don't think he had the best trip at all 2 starts back. As a matter of fact, I think he had some trouble in there. And last time out, I don't think it worked out for him either.
That's how I looked at him as well. I actually felt like when he returned from that long layoff at Keeneland back in October, I thought he ran pretty well in that race. He had a little trouble getting room in the stretch. He had to sort of push his way out, and then he finished pretty gamely at the end to get up for second. I thought that was a good jumping off point. To me, his Bryan Station, I guess the stumble at the start, he did stumble a little bit out of the gate, and I think that hurt him more than anything else because he just wound up way back off the pace that day. And then, Brian Hernandez did what he could. He just sort of kept him over towards the inside. He couldn't get him into the clear. I don't know where he was going to finish, Dan. And I'm not suggesting he was going to be a lot closer. But, boy, he was behind horses for a long lay in the stretch there. I'm giving a pass for that race.
But now he's going third off the layoff. He should have fitness off those last two races, and he can get closer to the pace than last time. Price Talk is the sixth. The acid test for this Jorge Abreu trainee finished first in all three lifetime starts. Let's watch his race on October 11th. He tried real hard in this race. Now, I don't think he was beating much in here, but I like the determination he showed to run this horse down in the lane. From a buyer's standpoint, he's right there, isn't he?
Yeah, I agree that he wasn't beating a lot in that race, but he won very easily again at the end, and he's won all three of his starts, or finished first, I should say, in all three of his starts. And he was, easily best all three times. This horse does have some talent. We'll see how he stacks up.
I think Starting Over is kind of an interesting, longer priced horse that you might want to consider in your exotics. Some pretty sharp connections claim this horse for $75,000. They ran him in the Hill Prince over Yielding Going. All in all, I think the trip was okay. He was only beaten 4 lengths. I think the blinkers on, a really interesting move for Falcone. I think this horse has a lot of upside.
I do too. He's goes for a very good trainer. This is a pretty smart claim, I think, for this horse. And we'll just see how it all works out for them. He didn't have any excuse in the Hill Prince. He just wasn't good enough that day. But that was a better field than this one.
Vancity, the number 8's done a lot in his short career. He's a multiple stakes winner on synthetic. He's a stakes winner on turf. I still don't know how good he is. I mean, in the Kent, I didn't think it was the greatest trip for him, and he only got beat 3 lengths by Gufu. And then he got a perfect trip when he won the Jersey Derby, right. And since then he's seeking his first top 3 finish. So I'm not sure how good he is, but I know he does have tactical speed. Not his best day, he fits with these horses, and, listen, he has credentials.
He does, and he can get the right trip in this race, and that may be more important than anything. So we'll just see if they get him forward in this race, and he works something out. It's 2 races since the Jersey Derby, and you're right. It's 2 turf races. He hasn't necessarily run great either time, but that was a bog at Saratoga and the Saranac, so I'm just going to give him a pass for that one. He caught Yielding Ground again at Pimlico.
The 9 is Me and Mr. C, is another one of those Michael Maker claims. Since the claim, he won a $32,000 claimer easily, stepped him up to 50. He produced this effort, just missing by a head as the favorite. Very, very wide, Me and Mr. C. He's reaching out for some ground nicely at the end of this race. He didn't have a lot of pace to run at. I can see this horse improving a little bit. Yeah. I think it's a reach maybe for him to get a win, considering, how much upside can we expect after 12 lifetime starts and a career best buyer of 81?
Yeah, maybe not much, but this horse has run well in his last 2 starts. This was a good horse when Ned Allard had him anyway. Yep. There was nothing wrong with him. He ran in that Tampa Stakes race where Doc Boy beat him. This horse had a real trip that day and ran a lot better than it looks. This horse is okay, but I kind of feel like he's still, that sort of claiming allowance kind of horse.
City Man, the number 10, is just a nice, versatile horse. He's still a turf maiden, but I wouldn't hold that against him. He's run well on dirt. He's run well on turf. City Man, 2 starts back in allowance race. He runs second in this performance. Got up close to the pace that day. That could be key. Yes, and Junior Alvarado is very, very good on the turf. I have a feeling he's going to work out a trip with City Man. I'm not going to underestimate the New York bred against open foes. I'm
not either. I want to use this horse somewhere. I feel like his last turf race up at Saratoga, first of all, the horse to beat him is pretty good anyway, Venezuelan Hug. And this horse, I don't think he wants 9 furlongs, then. I think it's too far for him. His other 2 turf races, they're both good, and he showed in that Transylvania he can go with stakes horses.
Bodie Cream is up next, another Michael Maker trainee, 3rd start of the form cycle. I've always liked this horse. I've always felt he needed trips. And he kind of got it last time out, didn't he, in the Hill Prince? Maybe he didn't like the Yielding Ground. He saved ground. He had the trip. He wasn't as good as Get Smokin' and Decorated Invader. That being said, both of those horses would be favored in this race. He's not out of it, Bodie Cream.
I agree. I feel like he did get a really good trip last time, and he just wasn't good enough. But they were better horses than this, and I feel like he's a nice fit in this race. I like him going back to his turf races at the end of last year, early this year. I think he showed some real talent then. And he showed last time, too, Dan, that he can get a little bit closer to the pace, and that's a good thing for him going forward. We'll see. This isn't a great post, but I think it makes a lot of sense in here.
Speaking of bad posts, Reconvene, far outside post. Maybe with his running style doesn't matter, because he has no speed. I'm just assuming Chris DeCarlo's going to break, take him to the back of the pack, try to save as much ground, try to make one run, hope there's some pace, and hope he doesn't have to lose too much ground if he has to go around everybody. This horse has run some nice races. I'm just concerned about what kind of trip he's going to get.
Me too. I mean, that's really the only reason that I didn't have him higher in my picks, Dan. I mean, I don't know what kind of trip he's going to be able to get in this race, but he's run well in his last two starts.
Let's take a look at our top picks because you can go so many different ways in the Gio Ponti. I like the 4 in here for Chad Brown and Jose Ortiz. Being favorite last time out, I think this horse ran well. I think he's taking incremental steps forward. And I think the key is that he's got more tactical speed than some of these others. So he's going to be sitting close and getting the jump on these closers.
I can see him getting a good trip in this race, Dan. Again, I'm not going to be surprised when he wins this race. I just don't want a short price on that horse because I really don't know how good he is. And I feel like he is going to get bet in here. I'm going to take a shot with Fighting CB. I really struggled with this race. I almost put Bodie Cream on top, and I definitely want to use that horse, but I'm going to try Fighting CB. I think he does have excuses for his last two starts, and I think you made a really, really good point, Dan. In a paceless race, he has more tactical speed than it looks like he does on paper.
Really wide open edition of the Gio Ponti on Friday at Aqueduct. We kick off the 20-cent Empire 6 with race number 5. Approximate post time 1:46 Eastern. Good luck.